Welcome. You found us. Hope you left a trail of breadcrumbs. Hey, I got a couple friends I'd like you to meet. These two instruments represent like what I'm told is the predominant bass guitar globally. P bass, precision bass. I don't know if you can tell from there. I'll show you in more detail as we go. Fender versus a Squier. Sorry, excuse me. These give me a chance to illustrate three issues. Number one, Squiers, what that means. Licensing is what it is. Secondly, some history, Fender history. We'll go into that. And then last but not least, we'll compare these two instruments, these two bass guitars, because they really do look alike. Despite the color, you'll notice top of the list, right? The different fretboards. This one being rosewood as opposed to a solid maple. This is maple all the way through. The maple is harder, theoretically, gives a harder sound. The rosewood, especially in guitars, mellows the sound from what they tell me. As for licensing, through the 70s, when I was a kid, the only Fenders were made in America. I remember a buddy, 1972 thereabouts, he'd been saving his pennies. He had this Stratocaster on layaway. I kid you not, I still remember the weekend he disappeared, okay, when he took possession of that guitar. To me, I never liked Strats, and that's this shape, right? I never really liked this. It cost him $600-700 in 1972. Current price for a new Strat from Fender, $1,800. Superior workmanship, craftsmanship, materials, made in USA, and there's a trick to that, but we'll get into made in Mexico here in a minute too. Originally, but a licensed guitar, right? Fender is approached by manufacturers in other countries saying, hey, we'd like to use your designs, your drawings, and build a guitar that worthy of the Fender name, frankly, but yeah, to their specs. That's almost a Fender. How's that? And online, I sell these instruments, and I get a lot of flack from people. Oh, I get that guitar for $150. I say, no, dude, Indonesian, and that's the most recent. Current models are made in Indonesia, and are made from, and that's the trick. The licensee again goes to Fender. He says, hey, I can build 1,000 guitars, and Fender collects $20 a guitar, whatever it is, but that's agreed to in advance. And there's a production run using local materials, which are ideally less expensive than American made, right? And the labor and the whole bit. It began with Japan, Fender Japan. And I don't know if you can see my screen. You're looking at Workbench South here. And yeah, no 21st century workbench is complete without being fully wired. I use this for reference material. I go online. What a wonderful age we live in. I look up wiring diagrams, and on the screen there, which is why I brought this up, I'll show this to you later on the closing credits there, a parting shot. But that black one to the left is a Telecaster, 6-string, made in Japan. I want to say 1986, something like that. It is what I call a weaponized guitar. They are, they're highly prized by collectors. We'll put it that way. So, okay, licensing, right? Fender Japan operated roughly through the 80s and 90s. Then the Mexico plant, am I getting that right, came online. I think Korea was after Japan, actually. Japan, and then MIK guitars are incredibly undervalued, but the quality is there. Okay, so Japan, Korea, then Mexico, China, which kind of overlapped, and now Indonesia, right? Like I say, modern instruments are made in Indonesia, and I'll tell you, it has to. A guitar is a funny thing. It like skis, right? When you go skiing, they say, oh, it has to become part of your body. And a guitar, I mean, first of all, it has to hang right. And if the neck is too heavy, which again, if you use these two instruments, this is a solid wood body, okay? These are really heavy instruments, and it almost has, look at that neck. That's a full-scale neck, and it weighs a lot, especially solid maple with the heads, the whole bit. And if it hangs neck heavy, it's harder to play. You have to hold it up and then pick your strings. It should, again, become part of you and hang right. And you know, I deal in instruments that do that. Guitars, basses. I still remember, we'll get into eventually project number 1, a short run 80s era Stratocaster MIK, made in Korea. The body, I was really disgusted to learn, was layers of crap. Not even plywood, but pulp paper and layers of pulp wood with a nice veneer, a nice outer layer that they could paint and make. Anyway, where were we? Mexico, made in Mexico, which is what this is, by the way. This is a made in Mexico bass, MIM, 2007. I will talk about serial numbers and how you date these too. This is made in Korea with a serial number that starts with CN. Again, if you just look real quick, they're the same, but there are details, and we'll get to the comparison. Let's go on to history of the Fender, right? Again, back in the 70s, it was only made in America, and I can help you date. I mean, just basically, this is one of my reference materials. Is that going to come in eventually? Too much sun. There it is. This is the first logo. You know, they've been making Fenders since the 50s. Telecaster was the older of the two. Then the Strat here, and then the bass kind of overlapping again. But it began with this, what they call a spaghetti, very thin. And then this is an interim, and I've seen a lot of these. It's a little heavier line with a gray in the middle. And then this is black with a gold border. This says 70s era. Now, of course, it's an older book. It won't have newer stuff, but you could tell the evolution of, this is a Telecaster headstock, right? These are a deeper clef, right? And more resembling what's on these two basses, but they're just subtly different, and you can tell a lot from the era, from the logo that was used. Leo Fender invented these instruments, right? He sold the company 1963 to CBS. Yeah, CBS Broadcasting, the television company that we know today. Instruments prior to that are higher quality. CBS diluted the brand, right? They used less expensive materials and were not really up to Leo's specs. If you can find what they call a pre-CBS, older than 1963, again, real Fender made in America. I can't tell you how much it's worth. It depends on condition and how many of them were made, on and on. But the pre-CBS are especially prized, okay? I mean, a year's salary for most of us. Even through the 70s, Ash Body, US made, an incredible guitar. It made a huge difference what kind of materials you put into it. Again, these are Alder bodies, both, I want to say. I haven't been into either one of them, but again, it's a solid wood body. Second choice, a little cheaper, but intended to be as good as the American made, which used an ash body back in the day. There is also a jazz bass made by Fender, right? And clones, licensed guitars. And there are other models of the P bass too, with, you can see these just have that one double split pickup, but they do make other models of the precision bass with double pickups, and as I recall, double volume too. These are pretty basic models, both of these, and I wanted to talk about, because I like the Telecaster better than I always have. Where's that picture? This isn't the good one. I have another from the internet. That's a Telecaster bass in the 70s, as I recall. But you can see the body has the double cutaway, right? It has two horns where the Telecaster doesn't usually have that. It's this huge tailpiece. I'll find another picture and post some really gorgeous shots of the Telecaster bass, which they now have revived, reissued is the word, and it actually looks like a Telecaster with one cutout, one horn, and rounded at the top. Okay, onward and upward. The two, again, just looking at these, the heads, you can tell right away, are different. The heads on this one they're like as big around as my thumb. They're huge. These are much smaller. On the other hand, I'll start giving you a better look at all of these. On the other hand, it's used these stamped metal keys. That's really it's a cheap head, machine head, tuning peg. All of those terms are used for this. Here, I want to talk about serial numbers too, right? Can you see this one? It says M, Z, and then a 7. And then what's it say? 104711. The last 3 digits are the total run. They made 711 guitar basses like this, and this is those first 3 digits. This is the 104th one that they made. Everybody uses numbering systems like this. I can identify most guitars, and I shouldn't say that. Not Gibson, but anything made overseas. And of course, that's another point. This is a made in Mexico, right? The M indicates Mexico. There's also an MX. This is year 0, year 2000 through 2009, and then the MX is 2010 to goodness. See, that's the hitch. Made in Mexico plant. Did we talk about it burning down? They put it, I think it was 2003. They barely got the doors open and the place burned down. So 2003, 2004, made in Mexico. Fender instruments are fire sale because they're using components that may have been damaged by water or flames. Anyway, so, but after that, these are high. I've had 2 Telecasters made in Mexico, and they went. I couldn't keep them in the house. High demand. Back to comparisons. This one has a 3-layer pick guard. Okay, black, white, black, white. That rosewood fretboard is laminated onto the front side of the maple neck. Again, pretty high quality. But now we get to screws and parts. The made in Mexico is American measurements. I want to call it SAE, right? 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 5/8 American measurements, as opposed to European millimeter, centimeter, all of that, right? And then we get to this made in Korea, which is European. It's millimeter, centimeter. All of the parts, every screw is a different size than the MIM. Okay, you look at the serial number again on this one. It says right on it, made in Korea, right? But that number, the CN, begins with a 2. That means 2002. I think that's right. And same deal, 115 run. And this is guitar bass number 12. That can't be right. I'll have to look that up again. I have references. I'll put that on the screen too, so you can see where I look this stuff up. But I think that's right. Better heads. See the nice, as opposed to the stamped metal, right? These are all shiny and chrome. Enclosed gear heads. But it's a single layer pickguard, which you can see is rather warped on this one. Maybe you can't see that. I've been planning to take a hairdryer to that and soften it up and see if it'll settle back into place. But it's not flush, not pretty. Yes, the made in Mexico instruments are more valuable, more highly prized than these Korean or Chinese. But that, you have to, and a buyer's guide, okay? First thing I do is I look down the neck from the nut sorry, from the bridge to the nut. And this one actually is a ski jump. I should adjust it, tighten it down a little bit so it's a little bit flatter. But what I'm looking for is a straight line. No matter what it does, if it curves up, curves down. No. If it curves down, don't buy it. But I want them to be in a fairly straight line without any humps. You know, you're looking at railroad tracks here, and you want it to be nice and smooth. Again, this one needs to be adjusted a little bit, but the quality of the wood really is exceptional. Look at that grain. I promise you, that's high quality wood, regardless of the overseas source, the licensees. Anyway, I will post sound checks for both of those. You know, they're going to be very much alike. We'll see if we can get milk any difference out of there. Here, I'm going to show you some pictures. See if I can get any difference in sound, give you a good idea, any real points that you need to know. But in the meantime, here's that, what I call the weaponized Telecaster from Japan. There's a horrible glare. Are you seeing that at all? The white one, it's funny, there's a white Telecaster next to it, and I've already bought that and sold it. That was a made in Mexico Telecaster. Super nice guitar. Anyway, I will post the guide to where I find information on serial numbers and sound checks. Thanks for stopping by. I'm glad to see you all. Peace.